Hey everybody, Jason here. Team Associated asked me to do a review on their B44.3, at least an updated review. So they sent me this pretty dialed B44.3 with some goodies free of charge, and I'm gonna give it to one of you guys free of charge after we do the review. So let's get on with review part 2 for the Team Associated B44.3. I guess we'll get started with what's going on inside the buggy. And I'll show you guys what I've got going. Of course, it comes with the white J-Concepts finisher. Oh, it doesn't come with a white body. It comes with a J-Concepts finisher body. I made it white. And then this is the car itself. This car is outfitted with a Reedy 410R black box, the Reedy servo, Reedy Mach 2. I chose a 7-turn motor because I think that's a nice mild motor that is usually, guys like Steven Hartson race all over the country, and a lot of times Steven uses something right around a 7-turn. And of course, right now I'm using a Reedy 4100 milliamp number 602 battery. So that's what's in the car. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the build like we normally do, and then we'll talk about performance characteristics, durability, all that kind of stuff. The first thing I want you to know is, before we get into the build, I just want to kind of kill some rumors. A lot of people kind of felt like after they watched my first video that maybe I was from here on out, I was going to hate Associated or something like that. And that just isn't the case. The truth is that there are guys over there that I get along with really well, and there's some guys that don't really talk to me, so maybe they don't like me. I can't control that, right? But the truth is, since I've been a 10-year-old boy, I've been a huge fan of Associated. And in my last video, more than anything, I was just really disappointed. In that first video, I was disappointed for 2 reasons. One, I was disappointed that the kit wasn't like a next generation new updated kit. But more than that, I knew that when I bought it. You can see what comes in the box by looking at the box art, by looking at pictures online. So I knew what I should be getting. What I was really disappointed about was that the build was just an absolute nightmare the first time around. And so I hate to use the word heartbroken, maybe disappointed. It's like, I don't know, maybe it's like meeting your idol and finding out that the guy's like a butt munch or something. Like you think this guy's awesome, then you find out he just sucks. So that's kind of how I was. I was more like heartbroken and disappointed than anything. And then I guess it kind of turned into a little bit of anger, and I just felt a little pissy towards those guys. I just like, man, it's like you spend this money and you, So it was long story short, there's no vendetta. I don't hate Associated. A lot of those guys are very kind to me, very nice to me, and I look up to and respect quite a few of them. So we'll leave it at that. That's how I feel about Associated. Let's get on with the build of this. I called it updated in the beginning, but really they've just made running changes. So let's get on with my new running changes B44.3. Okay, so when you build this buggy, you build it the exact same way. The manual really hasn't changed. So there are really 3 real issues that I had when I first built my buggy. First, it was missing parts. That sucked. 2, it came with parts that weren't right. And 3, it came with parts that wouldn't allow you to assemble the buggy properly. So the first thing, we'll just talk about missing parts. My kit was like missing O-rings and stuff like that. That pretty much sucked. 2, it came with dog bones that were for other kits, so I'm not sure how that got packaged in there. And 3, it came with shims that wouldn't even allow you to get the bearings over the outdrive because the shims that went between the outdrive and the diff case were just too big in outside diameter. And then, of course, there were some other issues building the diffs. So let me just tell you what's changed. Basically, Associated has resized the shim that goes between the diff case and the diff outdrive. And while my bearings didn't slide over there perfectly, I took a box head wrench and just tapped lightly with like a pair of pliers. So it was a snug fit, there's no question about it, but the bearings went down and everything seemed to be fine. Like it didn't destroy the shim or anything like that. So they've definitely made the OD of the shim smaller in diameter so you can get the bearings on, so that's a plus. The second thing is all the parts were actually in the kit. Now I know that shouldn't be like, we shouldn't be celebrating that, but I was still stoked because obviously with my past experience that didn't happen. So everything's in there. And last but not least, they've made a couple running changes to things like the input shafts where the pinion goes on inside the diff case. Originally, you basically had to kind of wedge a C-clip or an E-clip into like this recess and then kind of get it on there with a razor knife. And like I mangled my first couple of E-clips when I tried it on the very first buggy. But this time, they actually relieved the shaft a little bit farther so that you could actually get the pinion down on there deeper. And here's a picture real quick. Now you can see that the input shaft actually sticks out a little bit past the gear so that you can get your E-clip on there. And then of course the bearings and shims actually locate everything inside the diff case. So they made some changes. So So the build actually went much, much better. I would say the build was good, not great, right? Not flawless. It's not like the most perfectly organized build out there compared to some of the other kits, but nothing was missing. Everything fit together, and they made some changes. So that's the build. But more importantly to me personally, what I saw a company that kind of made a mistake, and they were like, whoa, my bad, and they tried to fix it. And that means a lot to me. These big companies, they don't have to do what we tell them. I mean, I still see tons of B44.3s out there that are built now. So people went out and bought these kits whether they had problems or not. So these companies didn't have to make these changes. They chose to make the changes. And so I'm going to give them some brownie points for that. I appreciate that. So the build was good. I'm pretty stoked that they made some changes. Let's get on with handling, and then we'll talk about the giveaway and the conclusion. Okay, handling. This car has notoriously just always handled really well. I've found the car to work really well on high bite surfaces, on low bite surfaces, and with the addition of a center diff. Now, when you add gear diffs into the mix like this car has, as opposed to its predecessor, you know, the 44.2, and of course all the earlier B44s had ball diffs as well. I really think that ball diffs can be a little, I really think that gear diffs can be a little hard to drive on lower bite surfaces. As soon as the car tends to get square, they lock up instantly. As soon as like the weight distribution is even, they can get squirrely. And so they put a center diff in, and I think that's a big deal. So I definitely feel like the gear diffs combined with the center diff makes the car easier to drive with gear diffs, even on lower bite surfaces. And then of course on higher bite surfaces, it's a no-brainer. It's the way to go. Not only that, but you know, the nice thing about the gear diffs in any of these new platforms of cars, they're a little bit harder to tune, because a ball diff, you know, you just add an hour or add a little bit of a turn to the diff screw and you can change the way the car handles. But on the flip side, they wear out and they're expensive to rebuild and replace and stuff like that. And if you accidentally overdo it or have your slipper too tight, it's pretty easy to murder a ball diff, you know, before you've even gotten started. So I like the gear diffs. A little bit more difficult to tune because you have to take them apart and drain the oil out of them. But the longevity and the just cost is just, you know, you can't beat it. So I'm stoked about that. So acceleration on this car is very good. You can control the way the car gets off the corner on a variety of different traction surfaces with the center diff, so that's a good thing. Jumping, this car's always jumped really well. Like it's just a very smooth car. You know, because it's got the drivetrain running down the center of the car, it's very easy to kind of roll the car and pitch the car in the air. Now landing. This car has notoriously not landed very well. And I think probably a lot of that has to do with the fact that the car just doesn't have a ton of droop. These cars never have had a ton of droop, and that just is what it is. From what I understand, this car was originally kind of based on touring car geometry. And so it makes sense, right? The car wouldn't have truckloads of droop. With that said, it doesn't make the car non-competitive. I mean, just this year at the 2015 SRS race, which is super high grip and had some pretty darn big jumps, if you Google it on YouTube or YouTube it, Ryan Cavalieri won on super high grip with this car. So, I mean, the car is still very, very competitive. So, cornering, very good. Acceleration, very good. Jumping, very good. Landing, meh, medium, right? It is what it is. So that is the performance characteristics of that's how I feel about the car. It's definitely tunable with sway bars and all that stuff. And that's that. So that's handling. Let's get on with durability. Okay, in the first video, I was pretty hard on this car for durability. In my opinion, really hasn't changed. The car just isn't durable. I mean, it is what it is. But there are companies like RPM that have started making stuff like this. These are RPM arms, and I believe they're made pretty much out of like a nylon material. And while the durability on this car clearly is not even, I wouldn't even call it good, not to mention great, right? But when you put something like an RPM arm on the front of this car, it really changes the car entirely. When I owned my B44s, and I've had a bunch of them, really what I broke were two things. I snapped off front arms like they were candy on a weekly basis. And in general, I would break rear shock towers because you'd either clip the pipe, you're turned in, coming through a corner on power, and you clip the pipe and the inside edge just grabs the wheel and it rips the arm off. Or you do something stupid and you jump something, the car cartwheels and it lands on that rear shock tower and snaps that. So I don't really have a fix for you for the rear shock tower. I suppose looking at it, that any company out there, if they really wanted to, I guess even in my garage, I could go make a 4mm thick carbon shock tower for the back to increase durability back there. And who knows, maybe I'll do that one of these days. But for the most part, a $10 pair of RPM front arms for this buggy really changes the way I feel about its durability. You really won't break too much. In my opinion, if you put the B44 or you put the RPM arms in the front, I think you'll be in good shape. But right out of the box, there's no question that the car isn't as durable as I'd like it to be, and that's just that. Okay, so let's get to the conclusion. At the end of the day, how do I feel? I feel like $379, you're getting quite a bit of car. You're getting gear diffs, you're getting a center diff, an aluminum chassis. They've tried some cool things like with this floating servo mount, which I'm really not a big fan of. I mean, it's cool that it's there. They did some updates so that you can mount the servo on either side of the chassis now, which I definitely think is a big bonus. But I think the car handles well. In general, it's a very neutral car. The only thing that there's two things, the two drawbacks for me in this car are this. It doesn't land very, very good, and it's not super durable, but we've already discussed how you can, take care of one of those issues. Let me just tell you one of the strengths of this particular platform. There's been a ton of them. There's the B44, the B44.1, the B44.2. So a lot of these kits share parts. They share arms, they share hubs, they share crush tubes, they share so many different bits and pieces that one of the strengths of this car is that you could probably walk into just about any hobby shop across the country here in the United States and buy parts for this car. Now, even with companies that stock Losi parts, would they have as many parts on the wall for a 22.4 as there might be on the wall for this? And I would say probably not, simply because the B44 platform has been out for years and years. So one of the biggest strengths to this platform is that there's probably quite a bit of part support for it. And if you've ever messaged me on Facebook, you'll know this, because I get a lot of these messages asking me which cars to run. I always tell people, run the cars with the most support. Run the cars that other guys at your track run, and run the cars that the hobby shops support. Because nothing sucks worse than going out and buying some new car and you break it, and then the hobby shop doesn't have a part for it, and because nobody runs it, none of the locals can even loan you a part for it. That is a major bummer. And so at the end of the day, while the B44.3 isn't perfect, it's still a very competitive car. It's cost competitive. There's a big aftermarket for it, and there's a huge support structure for it. So that's how I feel about it. So that's been my review on the Team Associated B44.3. Let me show you some on-track footage, and right after that, I'll tell you how to win this bad boy. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, Jason here. I'm out at Rainman's, and we're gonna run this brand new B44.3 for the very first time. We're gonna do our very best to get every lap on film, and then I'm gonna give it away to one of you guys. So let's hit the track. Oh boy, here we go. Nobody's here, we got a fresh track to ourselves. I'm gonna turn the brake down on this sucker. Come check out this brake. I'm dialing this thing way down. It's at 60, it's at, I turn it on like 50, that'd make it easy to drive. All right, let's do this. Well, I'll tell you what, with our first crash ever, we're gonna call it done. This car is almost brand new except for one crash, and now I'm giving it to one of you guys. Okay, so the video review is over. Here's the car. You already saw what's in the car. Everything that you see in the car, except the battery because of shipping problems, is gonna get shipped directly to one of you guys. It actually has Proline clay compound electrons on it. Those will be coming with the car. I'm gonna send these B44 RPM front arms. You'll have to put them on. Now, this review took a little longer than I really had anticipated because I reached out to a couple of different companies and a couple of different people to see what I could kind of come up with and kind of feel out there. And so I reached out to J Concepts, and they were cool enough to send this J Concepts silencer B44.3 body. Now, you really can't see what this baby looks like when it's in the package, so here's a picture of it. It's a pretty good looking body, and I'm gonna send it with the kit. One other thing that I'm gonna be sending with the kit, I shouldn't say I'm gonna be sending it, but when you give me the address, I'm gonna make sure that it makes its way to you, is this. This is one of Ryan Cavallari's very own B44.3 bodies. I ran into Ryan at the 2015 touring car Reedy Race of Champions, and I asked him if he'd be willing to kick in something, and he said he'd be happy to send this body to you guys. So whoever wins this buggy is gonna get the buggy, the speed control, the servo, the motor, the body that came with it, the J Concept silencer body, and of course, Ryan Cavallari's body, and the RPM arms. So here's how you win. All you have to do is head over to Win RC Stuff, put in your email address. We'll probably leave entries open for like maybe, I don't know, 30 days. And then I'm gonna try to find something like a random selection generator or something like that. I'm not sure how to do this. I just want it to be completely legit. And of course, I'll ship it to you guys wherever you're at in the world. Australia, Japan, Belgium, France, Germany, wherever you're at, I'm gonna send this to you free of charge. Associated gave it to me, I'm giving it to you. Thanks for watching, you guys. Get on over to winrcstuff.com and register, and hopefully we'll see you guys on the cover of Facebook holding your new buggy in a month or so. Hey, by the way, before you leave, I just want to say thanks again for watching my videos. I only make these videos so that we can have fun together. By the way, you'd be doing me a big favor if you could either comment, like, or even better, subscribe to my channel. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.